Before we begin, watch this video until the end. The last minute holds the decision that gives the whole journey its teeth. Chapter 1. The First Hour.
You learn your body by the was it betrays you.
Mine started with a splinter of heat in my wrist, a bite I brushed off as barbed wire when I pulled the tarp from the river barge.
I wanted canned peaches for my little girl.
She wanted the syrup more than the fruit. I used to tell her syrup was sunlight you could drink. By the time I hauled the crate across the mud, my skin felt packed with needles. My head thumped.
I knew the signs.
They taught us in those radio briefings, a window, 48 hours from breach to burial. That's what the rash did to you. It coaxed you toward earth, toward stillness. You became a hole where hunger waited. The doctors stopped saying infected. They said planted. Crops of teeth in every ditch. I didn't scream. She was asleep in the carrier on my chest, one fist clamped around a broken crayon. I looked at the bite, a crescent, shallow mess of grit. I doused it with the last of the spirits and watched liquid flame my skin.
I breathed through my teeth.
We were crossing the floodplain, me mapping the last of the old river's spine by the bleached hulls and creekside playgrounds turned to iron skeletons. There was a rumor of safety to the west, an orchard ringed in fencing and solar lights. Some said no babies allowed. Some said only babies. Rumors were small gods now.
I found a watch in the Kitan Zeta countdown, 48 minutos.
I thumbed start. The digits blinked like a second sun I had to outrun. I told myself we would make it.
I told myself 30 times.
Then I did what all parents do when the numbers turn against you. I began to plan for the time I would not be myself. Chapter 2. The River That Eats People. The river had eaten the towns the way old dogs eat their own bowls, out of habit, scoured down to metal.
Wetter mad sleep man.
I strapped my girl behind me in a sling I'd stitched from a sailcloth, turned so she could dream against my spine. I didn't like the thought of my face next to hers when the fever climbed. The rash on my wrist looked like a sunflower with black seeds. On the second mile we found the standstill wind. Every infected thing we passed had taken to dirt. Face pressed under, backbone hump under a coat, fingers corkscrewed as if to screw itself tighter into the country.
Deras chates ait first.
They'd smell you, they'd hear you, they'd root when you ran. They called them anchors. They called them moles. I called them what I needed to, reminders to breathe quieter.
Agomans camper sat on a rise, esculguite in the fog.
A clean line of laundry promised soap and safety, which meant a trap. People were kinder when they were dead.
Hello, the woman sang.
She had teeth like small gravestones and a necklace of keys. Her eyes caught on my sling, then my wrist. I kept it down. Just passing, I said, and shifted so my body was a wall. You look like you need a minute, she said, and I did, and that was the trick. I took the minute anyway, because my head was a bell and someone had rung it. She gave me water. She gave my daughter a plastic ring, pink and heart-shaped. She said there was a ferry toward the orchard, a real one, collecting healthy families. 2 more clicks. They don't take biters, she said like she was saying grace. But I can clean that up for you. When I looked out from the camper, I saw her garden wire strung with bones.
I saw them prints on the inside of the closet door, streaked down in tar black.
I put the water down without drinking and thanked her. I told her I needed to keep moving. She smiled hard enough to crack her lips. Keep moving, she said, and slid her hand to a switch.
I heard the doorbell mesnik. I heard the ground under the window rasp.
One of her anchors pulled itself from the soil with a wet, ripping sound. It wore a yellow sundress. Its face was packed with dirt like bread. I grabbed the pry bar from my belt and swung it through the window to keep it honest. Glass slashed my forearm. The sundress wriggled, sniffing. I didn't wait for it to find us. I put my shoulder to the camper door and took it off its hinges.
The woman said my name.
I hadn't told her my name. We ran until my chest went to battery acid. When I looked back, the camper was quiet. The line of laundry barely moved.
The watch read 37 horas y 12 minutos. Sweat stung my eyes. It tasted rust.
I kept the ring the woman had given my daughter, because it was pink, and because it reminded me that even a lie can be small and pretty and still be poison. Chapter 3, The Girl with Smoke on Her Cheeks. We met her at the old railway bridge where the tracks bent like broken ribs. She had ash smeared across her cheeks and a bundle of reeds on her back. She moved like a stitch through cloth. She whistled and 3 boys appeared from underneath the slats, all bones and anger. "You sick?" she asked me, not ugly, just counting. "Not yet," I lied, and managed to lift my arm without the cough taking me out. The watch ticked down with a sound only I could hear. She scraped a mark on my forearm with charcoal. 3 short lines, 1 long.
You walk on that. Not on the sky side.
They fall off. She pointed into the river where a bus lay on its side like a drowned cow. People still pressed against the windows inside, like pressed flowers glued to their own reflections.
Bad supriver.
I asked. "Food if you like snakes."
Men whistles.
"We keep to the orchards," she said.
We burn the anchors before the roots go deep.
My uncle says the rash made the country honest. She pointed at my sling. "Where's the mother?" I swallowed. My girl yawned behind me and scrabbled at my shirt. The ash-faced girl looked at her with something like fury, which was the closest thing to love I'd seen in weeks. "Keep your noise in your feet, not your mouth," she told me, and led us along the beams. I stepped where she stepped.
I breathe where's she breathe.
When the cough came, she handed me a cloth soaked in something mint and mean. "Smudge," she said. "The anchors smell smoke and think fire means old growth. They don't look up." We made the far bank in one piece. The boys melted into the brush as if the green had been waiting to take them back. The girl gave me a stick with a dead fish head tied to one end, fresh as a slap. "If you go bad, you put this on your front," she said matter-of-fact, "and tie a line to your waist. Someone can lead you without you seeing them." She tilted her head. "We do it with dogs." I hated her for a moment so hot it bruised my heart. Then I thanked her. I tucked the fish into my pack and tasted bile.
The watch blinked 23:54.
The air tasted like old coins. The ash-faced girl pointed to the west where the light went copper. "The orchard has fences. The orchard has songs. If you hear birds where there are no trees, don't go in. If you hear trees where there are no birds, do." She vanished into the willow scrim without ceremony. I whispered thanks to the river, because once I believed in gods that lived in water, and if there was anything water loved, it was a father who kept going even when he was finished.
Chapter 4, The Museum of Teas. Night made everything bigger.
The wind turned the reeds into an audience. I found an old wildlife park with fences high enough to pretend safety. The sign said no feeding. The cages were mostly open. The wolves had gone to country. The tigers had been rumor, always. We slept in the otter house on rubber mats that still smelled like hose water and bleach despite the dust. I watched my daughter sleep with her mouth open, the way a nest sleeps. I wrote her a note with a carpenter's pencil I licked to make darker. I wrote it on the inside of my arm. Then I wrote it on an index card and slid it into the sling pocket. Then I said it to her, mouth to the crown of her head, over and over until it became a prayer I could not understand.
Go to the lights. Look for the kites on the fence.
Follow whoever knows your name without asking. When the cough lifted me off the mat, I gagged down the taste of iron and resin. The rash makes a kind of sap.
It clats in your mouth like stale honey. Your tongue turns to brick.
I spat into a bucket that used to hold fish. I counted the clots like years. In the morning, the otter pools were green plates. Something floated in the far one, face down. A shirt puffed around a skinny back. I went close because a father goes close. It wasn't a man. It was a mannequin from the gift shop, someone's joke, someone's scarecrow. Its torso was packed with pamphlets. On the wall a hand had written a story in marker, a big, shaky print. When the last bus went east, we stayed.
We saved the chill, anten we saved another, anten we buried the first.
You can't save a whole season with one shovel. That was a thing the rash did too. It made poets of cowards and archivists of thieves.
You think your words will save you when your blood can't.
I ate 3 peaches with my eyes closed so I could pretend they were warm from a tree. I let the syrup run down my wrist and watched it sink into the cracks the rash had opened and imagined my veins as an orchard drunk on sugar.
The watch read 14-1.
That number had teeth. I took the fish head from my pack and bound it to a stick. I threaded a nylon rope through my belt loops. I tied knots I remembered from the days when the worst thing a river could do was steal your sandal. I tried not to think about how much faith it takes to arrange the future for the part of you that will want to eat your child.
Chapter 5. Burial Instinct.
Midday came in like a fever. The ground under the sky was open as a throat. I kept to the lines the ash-faced girl had drawn.
Past the canal I saw the orchard fence curled in the distance like a silver thread.
Between us and it lay a field of little mounds, each the size of a person. Each breathed a little breath of dust. I tried to go around. The watch said 8:29. My hands went numb. My head swelled against my skull. The first mound shifted.
Fingers parted the soil, slow as newborn spiders.
I stopped breathing, but my breath did not stop. It had learned to walk without me.
A man rose from the dirt between me and the horizon.
He wore an orange safety jacket and the expression of a lamp that's been on too long. Brown resin crusted his beard. He smelled the air and angled his head. He didn't see me. He sensed the direction of warmth like a seed senses sun. I moved my girl's weight higher on my back with a soft grunt, and the man's head popped toward the sound like a bird hearing rain. Then he did the thing the rash makes you do when it's time. He dug. He pushed his face back into the ground with a terrible, grateful patience, like a drunk missing a bed by inches. He was making his mouth into a door. Burying isn't only about hiding. It's about anchoring. The rash gave its choir an anchor so the wind wouldn't blow them away when hunger called. I stepped between the mounds, knees like language I couldn't use. My rope snaked after me. I put the fish head in front of me on its pole, and walked as if I were my own beast of burden. I practiced not seeing it.
I practiced letting my body follow what stank most.
It's easy to pretend when you know the game you're practicing is the game that will save your child.
A man rose from the field like tide.
I wanted to run. The rope brushed a mound and something under it hummed. A hand dragged through the topsoil and found my shoelace with the tenderness of a mother tying it. The orchard fence flickered with hung paper kites, little triangles that made a music I remembered from summer fairgrounds. The wind lifted them and they clacked, and the sound was so bright and human I cried. Just once. Just enough that my mouth filled with resin sweet, and I had to hold it in with the back of my hand so my child wouldn't know I hurt. I was 20 steps from the gate when the ground directly in front of me sighed and opened.
Chapter 6. The Orchard Shadow.
He came up tall. He had once been a teacher, I thought, because his shirt had elbow patches. He smelled like rancid sugar. There was a hole where his lip had been that showed teeth like puzzle pieces. He had the patience of geology. He angled toward my back, toward the warmth of my girl's breath, writing small moons on my shoulder. I put the pole's fish in his reach. He clamped onto it with a groan that shook my spine. Hunger became harness. My hands shook as I looped the nylon rope around my waist, then around his. He leaned into the lure the way a tired child leans into the idea of sleep.
He walked backward, slow.
He walked forward, slower.
We were a terrible animal, 4 legs, 2 mouths, 1 mind.
I watched the ground. I shouted inside my head every name I had, every memory of my child's laugh, every breakfast I ever burned, to drown the rhythm of the watch.
2:45.
The gate had a bell. The bell had a string. I pulled and the clack of the kites stuttered as if they were listening. Shapes ghosted behind the fence. Bows notched. Voices low, not frightened, just practiced. Name. Someone called. I said my child's name, full and round, so it would go through the metal holes like bread through a sieve. I said, help, which had become a holy word, one nobody wasted on small things. Put the child through, a voice said. If there is a line between mercy and cruelty, it's not where you think. It's here, where you hand your baby under a gate to a voice you've never seen, and your body already belongs to a disease that wants to make a seedbed of your face.
I pressed my mouth to my ear.
I told her the orchard had songs. I told her to find the woman who smelled like lemons and glue. I told her I loved her with the last clean part of my mouth. I slid her down and through the slot at the base of the fence.
Little hands on the other side gathered her like a harvest.
The teacher thing pulling at the fish went soft with relief. He had what he wanted. He didn't care about me anymore. His head listed. He sniffed. My heat wobbled in his awareness like a candle guttering. I wasn't important.
The watch read una 12.
My eyes felt full of wool.
The orchard got the groaned.
Something struck the teacher's skull with a one-syllable mercy sound. He folded. I saw the ash-faced girl on the fence with a slingshot and a rock, hair wild, cheeks new with clean tracks. She hissed down at me. "Get clear, father," she said, and I had never loved a stranger more. Then the camper woman stepped out from behind the gatepost with a long pole, the kind used for catching snakes. Her teeth were grave markers in the moonlight. "They don't take biters," she said, almost kindly, and hooked me under the ribs and kept me on the wrong side of the world. The orchard shapes argued. The ash-faced girl spit at the woman's shoes. The woman smiled at me with pity like a mother offers after a child spills milk. "You brought us steady food," she said, flicking the pole toward the teacher's limp body.
"Bless you, Rear."
I wanted to break her face with my watch. I wanted to never need anyone again. I wanted to hear my child laugh on the safe side and know that meant I could lie down in the mud like the rest of the world and become a root. The ash-faced girl tossed a bundle over the fence. It hit my chest, a scrap of shirt.
A small heart of mint.
A length of ribbon. "Tie the ribbon to your belt," she said, fierce and quiet. "We'll find the end." The watch said 041. The world went far away and too close at once, as if I were looking up at my own face from inside the ground.
Chapter 7, The Last Frat.
When the fever resolved, it didn't roar. It whispered. It said, "You're tired, let someone else steer." It said, "Wouldn't it be easier to be soil?" I tied the ribbon to my belt. I tied the fish pole to my chest. I smeared the mint under my nose so I could remember that there had been mornings once when my breath didn't taste like a grave. I took the note from the sling pocket and pinned it to the front of my shirt with a thorn. The letters were big and plain.
"Go to the lights.
Find the kites.
Take care of Miguel."
The ash-faced girl's ribbon vanished under the fence like a river under a door. I looped the other end around my waist twice so it wouldn't drag. Then I did the worst thing. I took my own blood in my fingers and rubbed it on the fish head. I spoke to myself the way men talk to dogs. "Come on, buddy. Come on. This way. Good."
The teacher on the ground shivered like a horse dreaming. Somewhere, the camper woman is a laugh cracked like ice. The orchard kites clattered. The ribbon tagged, 11, as if to test fight.
I leaned forward and the world leaned with me. A low shape came at my left, fast. A boy bending low with a knife. One of the orchard sentries who had decided mercy was a lie we told the sick. His blade winked. He meant to cut the ribbon. The ash-faced girl's hand flashed through the fence like a viper and caught his wrist. "Not him," she snarled. He yanked, she held. That was the whole war, right there, a ribbon fought over by two futures. The watch turned to midnight and gave a sound like a single raindrop in a field of bones. Something behind my eyes stood up and put its hand on my mouth from the inside.
The world cooled.
All color went to amber. The air tasted like resin and rain. I remember the smell of the fish more than anything.
I remember the ribbon lifting 11, twice, like a bird teaching a child how to fly.
I followed. My feet knew the path my mind no longer wanted. A shape in the dark charged, a memory of the man in the orange jacket, risen again, or another like him, drawn by the same him. I grunted, and something in me angled toward its warmth. The ribbon jerked hard, and I was pulled sideways.
Hands on the fence.
Voices low. My body tried to bury its face. The ground offered itself.
The fish swung.
Hunger and harness argued, and hunger blinked first. I straightened. I staggered forward, bound to that small, fierce tug. The gate opened a slit, then a breath more. A woman's hand, the lemon and glue I had promised, reached and touched my chest near the note, as if reading it through skin. She didn't open for me. She opened for the ribbon I wore. She gave it a new place to go. Something cold kissed my ankle.
The camper woman ese Paul.
She could have hooked me, dragged me back into the field of mounds, sung me to sleep with lies about fairies. Instead she looked at me with an expression I'll choose to think was sorrow. I don't need to do anything, she said, voice soft with absolution.
You do it to yourself.
Maybe she needed me to say no. Maybe we both did. I set my jaw on my tongue until blood came and taste came, and it anchored me to my own name for one more step.
The ribbon drew me past the hinge.
Hands pulled it from my belt.
The gate closed.
The ash-faced girl's eyes met mine through the mesh. She touched her chest, twice. Me, you. Forever is a loud word. We didn't need it. The watch was a dead star on my wrist. In the orchard, the ground was weeded clean. The kites on the fence made a tender clatter. A little animal sound in the dark told me my girl was near, alive, afraid, held. I smelled lemons, glue, mint, sweat, and something like forgiveness. I reached for my daughter, and my hands didn't obey me. They went to the dirt, to the old urge. I pressed my cheek down to the earth, and it was cool as river stones in summer. The resin behind my eyes ran like sap and sealed my lashes. The last thing I saw was a pair of tiny shoes I knew like I knew my own heartbeat. The last thing I heard was the ash-faced girl's voice teaching my daughter a song about kites and fences and how to tie a bough so it doesn't come loose in the wind. They say the orchard cremated us all when the woodpile was high enough, that they didn't leave any anchors to sing the hunger. I don't know. My knowing stops at the dirt. But I believe in ribbons. I believe in small hands that tug you toward the right gate, even when you're already gone. If you're listening, if you've come this far with me, the numbers will betray you. Your body will choose the ground. But you can teach your future to follow a stink to a better place. You can make yourself into freight that carries the only thing that matters to where the lights are, where the kites speak in wind. That was my last good plan. That was enough. If this tale left a mark, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment with your favorite moment, and share it with someone who needs a story tonight.